1976 and is now VK2 KXN. A radio technician by trade as well as a rigger, electrician, air conditioning and refrigeration technician. He started as an apprentice with Telecom and finished with the South Australian Police Department. He spent 7.5 years working as a radio technician and later as a senior communications technician with a large oil and gas explorer and producer. In 1985 he started his own company selling and servicing two-way radios, then built cellular phone sites for Optus and Vodafone and installed links between them. He came to Sydney in 1995 to do 3 weeks work for Foxtel and has worked with them for 19 years since. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to our first speaker this morning, VK2 KXN, Nick McLean!
Thank you, Al. I've just got one item of housekeeping to do before I start. You back on there? Yeah. Beautiful.
3811, right?
9288. Yeah, that's it. Check.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, to start off, a little bit of history. Motorola's Astro products began sometime around 1992. The Astro was released in 1995. This came about, it was marketed to the US military and the federal government as a replacement for the and an upgrade to the existing SecureNet products that they've been using previously. The Astro is capable of transmitting digital voice at 9.6 kilobits using the C4 FM modulation scheme. In addition to transmitting regular FM signals which can be decoded on a normal radio, so they're backwardly compatible with normal communication systems and CBSD SecureNet. You can see here that the radio has the analog mode, narrowband and wideband, and with the normal carrier squelch, tone-coded squelch, and digital squelch. As well, the channel can be programmed into the digital mode, either conventional P25 or trunked P25. The radios can transmit voice messages, both secure and in the clear, and they can send data packets, so you can send virtually short messages from radio to radio, and they fall into two categories, either a data packet which gets acknowledgement back, yes I've received that, or a broadcast data packet where the mobiles and handhelds in the field don't give the originating transmitter of the message any feedback. And then there's a whole group of calling methods which the radios are capable of, notably the emergency group call, and the protocols all set up to connect you to the public switch telephone network. What the acronym stands for: the project P25, or P25, is a set of standards produced through the joint efforts of the Association of Public Safety Communications Officials International, or APCO. You'll sometimes hear P25 referred to as APCO 25. The suite of standards involves digital land mobile radio, or LMR services, for local, state and national public safety organisations and agencies. P25 is applicable to LMR, land mobile radio equipment, which is authorised and licensed in the US. And although it's developed primarily for North American public safety services, Motorola have sold that technology worldwide into private systems and other radio users. P25 radios operate in a very similar method to the conventional analog FM systems that we're used to, and they're backwardly compatible, like we saw in the earlier slide. They're capable of having channels programmed to transmit to normal LMR mobiles and handhelds, or have channels programmed up to the digital, and also on receive you can program them to be multi-mode, so that it doesn't matter whether somebody transmits a normal FM signal that we're used to or a P25 signal. You get the audio in your speaker, or you can program them up to be selected. I'm only going to listen to conventional, I will ignore P25, or I'm only going to decode P25 in your normal analog transmissions on that channel. I'm going to ignore. We saw on that earlier slide that continuous tone-coded squelch or subtone and DCS are replaced in the P25 mode by NAC codes, which is the way that in the digital mode that the radios can selectively call and group call, and also we'll see in another slide that it's an ACMA requirement in Australia that when you use the P25 for amateur use, that it transmits your number, which is on your ACMA license, so that anybody listening can say, oh, okay, the number there, that was Compton Allen, or that was Nick McLean. I know who that is. Current P25 radios are designed to use narrowband channels as well as the wide, and the narrowband is just like the UHF band, commercial band is going. You can just get twice as many transmissions in whatever unit of bandwidth that you're talking about. P25 transmissions may be protected by encryption, but there's some rules about the encryption, which we'll come to in a later slide. P25 supports piggybacked data, and that is low-speed data which is piggybacked on top of your voice transmissions, that's going out at the same time, or the higher speed data, the 9600 data, which takes the place of voice. So when it's transmitting data at that high speed, that's all that's going out over the transmission. We've got a wide range of P25 radios here, which are available to the amateur community from auction houses. A lot of them are surplus police department radios that come up at auction houses on eBay. The mobile there is an ex-South Australian police department radio. They had a mixture of the radios where there was no actual control head on the dash. Everything was controlled from the bigger than normal microphone, which had all of the controls, and they also had the control head radios like that. These radios will be here for a while, up until about lunchtime or something like that, so feel free to wander over and have a look. There's some other radios that other people have brought along. There's 13 repeaters in New South Wales, which are either dedicated P25 or P25 and normal FM like we're used to. So buying a surplus P25 radio It's not going to, I mean, you just have to talk simplex to somebody locally. There's a wide range of repeaters to use, and some of those repeaters are on quite tall buildings in the Sydney Basin and have very, very good coverage. The last YSEN activation was using the Chatswood repeater fairly well into the Blue Mountains. That was working quite well. The ACMA requires that an amateur licence must transmit its licence number when you make a transmission. Now, the ones at the front we'll be able to see on this handheld when John transmits to me that my ID comes up in the display there, which satisfies the licence condition. Now, the other thing that we'll just demonstrate while we're in that mode is when you hear a P25 transmission on a normal conventional FM radio, that's what it sounds like. That's the data. So if you're listening on Carmingford repeater with a normal handheld or mobile, and you hear that noise, that's not a lizard, that's not interference getting in, that's some people having a conversation in P25. So that's.
I ask a question.
Yes.
When you say ident, amateur licence number, is that the call sign or is it the client number?
It's the client number. When that transmission was coming up there before, it was my client number, which is 1508351, which is on my ACMI licence. It doesn't come up with VK2KXN. Just as a bit of an aside, there were some amateurs on the Carmingford repeater in the last week, and they were coming up with numbers which were way out of the range of client numbers for here in Australia, and they had their DMR worldwide allocated numbers coming up, and I haven't been able to check with the ACMA because this was only a couple of days ago that this is true, that they maintain that the DMR ID number is acceptable in place of your ACMA allocated client number. So that's just something that's happening around town. I haven't been able to verify that.
Perhaps we could ask our WIA director to take that one up with the ACMA.
Another question?
To listen to P25 is that sound you hear on normal analog, but hearing it on D-Star is totally different.
Yes, most probably is.
Yeah.
And apart from the gear that we have here today, the handhelds and mobiles, Uniden produced a couple of scanner products which decode the P25 quite nicely and have brilliant quality.
The other question is, sorry.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Is this only restricted to standard and full cores, or can F cores also operate with P25?
No, because it's a digital mode at this point in time, and this may change, at this point in time, it's a digital mode and it's not available to F cores.
Okay.
Which is just an incentive to upgrade so you can use the fancier modes. Right, I said earlier that we would talk about encryption. Encryption is not legal for the average licensed ham. It is only legal for intercommunications when participating in emergency services, operations or related training exercises. So License currently having some of its members' equipment fitted with encryption, and within about a week, License will most probably have one transceiver for the trailer, which is capable of encryption, just to allow the organisation some sort of security, some level of security when talking about police matters to do with families of people who've been searched for, things like that. So unless you're a member of YSAN and involved in training or a search, encryption is a no-no. I'd like to thank the people that wrote the presentation for me. I didn't have time to write this myself, but I was asked to present it. So John and Steve, where are you, Steve? Thank you for writing the presentation for me to deliver today. We've had a couple of questions, but I'm now open to any other questions. Yes?
Who's got spare parts?
They're available. We can put you in contact with the Motorola service agent. I don't think it's actually a Motorola employee.
Josh. He was up here a couple of months ago.
Josh is another one. There's maybe a couple around.
The PT online is so broken.
Get in touch with me afterwards. Contacts for spare parts.
I noticed that the commercial ones, of course, transmit from different frequencies, like I think 450 to 530 or something like that. Can that be grabbed that easily, or is it software or is it hardware?
In the handhelds,
yeah.
It's fully software. The mobiles, the VCO tends to go out of lock on transmit only at the bottom end of the amateur band. But it's a very simple mod. You solder in one resistor, which is not particularly difficult to do, and it makes the VCO lock range come right down. After we've done the mod, you won't be able to make the mobile go up to the bottom end of the UHF CB band, but that's no loss on my radio. The handhelds, they'll do the first 8 channels or 10 channels or something like that, and then they get the software upper limit of the programming software. And I've ever tried to fight that if you do want to too much of it.
Are there any programs available that could be put into a little box to enable existing equipment to be used by plugging into a data socket or mic socket on existing radios?
That's a good question. I don't know. I suspect that there most probably is. Certainly you can get SDR, software-defined radios, to decode P25. Whether anybody's done a board that you could put into a conventional amateur receiver to transmit and receive.
I was imagining a little box that contained a microprocessor that could take the audio signals coming into it, convert it into the appropriate data stream, and put it into the software.
So certainly if you had one of the modern transceivers that has a 9.6 kilobit data connection at the back, it would seem to me that it would be a very simple project to turn out audio into data to be transmitted by that data capable radio and decode it coming back the other way. I'm sure it could be done, but I don't know. I've always gone down the track of buying eBay bargain radios and programming them up. The other thing is the Motorola software to program the radios that you see here is quite readily available and quite user-friendly to program up.
How much does it cost?
Sorry?
How much does it cost? They normally Motorola want quite a bit of money for their software.
It's out there for free. I think because these products are now not supported or not currently being sold to government departments and law enforcement and emergency services, maybe they're not so stressed about it being out there in the public domain. And the interesting thing with P25 is you can buy an eBay special radio and program it up for a few simplex channels and the repeaters around Sydney and put your ACMA number in there, and that gets you on the air. But the more you delve into the Motorola software, the more things that there are there that you can play with, messaging and talk groups, and there's a whole extension to the basic, P25. Let's program it up and get on the air and talk to somebody through the chat through the repeater or something like that.
What's an average sort of price off eBay for a recent handheld, like one of the more recent?
I've had those for a long time. I don't
Yeah,
know
Nick, I can probably answer that.
Okay, yeah.
The current ones, I'll just hold up a couple which we were making around with before. That's a Type 1 XTS 3000 handset. That's a Type 3. They're essentially the same hardware and chipset inside, except there's a different version of firmware running, which means this unit can run 48 channels, that one can run 255. I picked up these Type 1s on eBay for basically $100 each.
It's not bad.
Okay? And I've had a number of Type 3s. A couple of mates of mine who are into these things. Get yourself a 5,000, Buckley, you're cheap. But the 3000s, I've paid an average of probably $200, $220 for a 3000. Honestly, in some cases, in moderately average condition. But you can. The thing about these is, and I might just talk about that for a moment, is these Motorola guys, they are, as someone who's worked in electronics manufacturing and that type of stuff for most of my professional career, the level of, I think Nick could agree, these radios represent probably what is the logical conclusion of the most extraordinary single chip and single board development that is available in any product anywhere. If you open one of these things up, if you're any sort of a tech head, I think a few of us here are, you'll just look at them and you'll just go, these things are just extraordinary. Right? And they're incredibly robust. And a few simple rules about your static protection and being careful and having a good, clean, organised workspace and things like that. And you can gut a couple of radios and build one up that will work pretty well in an evening at home. Then if you do need to get firmware flash upgrade and things like that, that's available around the place from other amateurs. So the barriers to entry for P25 now are not what they were even 2 or 3 years ago, I'd suggest,
There's more gear in the auction houses than on eBay. There was when I was first coming out of government service and law enforcement service. The bits are all interchangeable. The first radio that I bought's got a burn mark to the screen there. It doesn't bother me. I've never bothered to replace that part, but I could. And the other thing you can do is buy radios that are in pristine condition that are sold as not working for spare parts. And it's easy to take the quite nice die-cast chassis out of a radio which is scuffed and looks terrible, and slip it into to a good-looking case.
And battery packs, what's the?
Yes, they're available. eBay have them. I buy them on my trade account with one of the big wholesalers here in Sydney that sells all sorts of microwave oven bits, and used to sell lots of VCR parts, and they sell more components and stuff like that. They've got a huge range of batteries. Are in their catalogue.
That way it's...
I didn't think I should name an organisation by name.
Oh, with the ABC?
Yes.
Does encryption affect the range of the P25?
Yes. You need most probably 3 to 6 dB more signal for encryption to be legible P25. Well, that's certainly the experience from the people in police departments and things like that. And there's emergency services in South Australia which are fiercely fighting the push to make them go P25 because they fear that they're going to lose range. And I think the fear is fairly founded. Compton, you were shaking your head like you disagree with me?
Oh no, sorry, I was probably just moving on.
Okay, that gives me a bit of confidence that I've answered that question correctly. Yes.
Nick, we should perhaps mention the Horsley Park P25 repeater. It might have been in the notes, but that's a linked repeater system, and you can get across to the States, Hawaii, New Zealand, and there's another station popped up on the network in Chicago in the last couple of days. At the moment, it doesn't require talk group to get across to those areas, but within probably a couple of weeks, talk groups will be set up. So you'll hear all the QSO, but you won't be able to join in if you're not set to the particular talk group. And Governor Philip Powell will probably join in with that link to Horsley Park.
Okay, that wasn't in the slide, but that's useful information.
And most of the stations out of New Zealand and America have the DMR ID number, which a lot of us are putting in the radios here. And you can go to a website and you just put the call sign in with the number, and it gives you all the details. So I guess that's something we need to confirm with ACMA.
Yes.
We can ask our WIA rep to follow that up.
Yes.
Is he taking notes?
Yeah, I already have. No, that'd be interesting to know whether what I was told there is kosher with the ACMA, because we know the rules in black and white, but these guys reckon that they've been told that it's okay to have your DMR.
What's the wording of the rules? Does it just say ID or?
We can go
Digital mobile radio.
Radio communication conditions. Oh, hang on,
No, that's the encryption.
Yeah. That's
Those encryption, the license numbers you're saying, the reason it was done is a lot of people who've got newer customer IDs, they won't fit in those radios. That's why they've gone down to 505, in our case 2, XXX.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem. My customer number is pretty old, so it'll go into a P25 radio.
Right.
But there's not enough characters in that part of the P25 standard to fit modern customer access numbers.
Well, the ACMA have got a problem then. If they're telling people that they must have their licence number.
I believe that was actually WIA suggesting to the ACMA at the time that was a good way of doing it because it was a pretty new thing.
Okay.
And ACMA just said, yeah, okay.
But that's right,
yeah, but it's okay for them to say, yeah, that's okay over the phone, but really it's got to come out in the licence determinations, otherwise it's...
And you still ID yourself anyway.
Yes, well, that's where I was going about the wording. If the actual wording says must contain a licence ID, then the alternative probably makes that requirement.
If you use if the radio is fitted with soft ID,
yes.
If you put your call sign with your soft ID, then I defy you to say that you haven't complied with the requirement because you've identified yourself on every transmission.
Yes.
Depends how specific the wording was.
Yeah, I think the wording was fairly specific that it has to be the number off of your technical licence. I should most probably revisit that and I'll be following up with the DMR thing. How am I going for time, Al?
Okay. You're fine.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, a few more questions?
Are they working on the P25 protocol? What I'm trying to get at is, use an analogy, when GSM was first introduced it sounded crap and they've worked on it over the years and now it sounds very natural. Are they doing the same with P25? Because I listened to it on a Uniden scanner and it still sounds half the time pretty Android.
Okay, they did do work on it, and after I bought the mobile over there and a couple of these handhelds, I did get somebody who had the Motorola firmware upgrades to put the firmware upgrades into the radios, and they do sound better on air after I've had that done. I suspect that Motorola aren't putting any effort into the support for these products anymore, but certainly they were sold with a firmware version and later upgraded, and the upgrade does make them sound quite a bit better. And I'm very happy with the voice quality that I'm getting out of these products now. Okay, down the back. Sorry if you've been putting your hand up earlier and I didn't see it.
What's the basic bandwidth available with all this radios, and is theirs actually degraded specification in amateur band compared to what they were designed for, or?
No, they were designed to fit into either the 25 or the 12.5 kilohertz channels of the commercial band, and we use them programmed for the 25 kilohertz spacing as amateurs, because that's what we do. We don't narrow band.
No, right. I'm talking about a whole bandwidth of the operating bandwidth of the radio. For example, 400 meg to 500 meg.
Oh, what the radio is capable of.
That's correct.
Yes. Most of these that we're buying surplus are roughly the 400 to 470 band radios, and that suited the GRNs around the various states of Australia, and also
because the sensitivity and the power output might be not as good in the amateur area to what it is in the design area, you know what I mean?
Oh no, that's not an issue with these, because these radios are designed to go down in the 403, 407 meg band, which is the bottom end of the government radio networks around Australia, up to just below the UHF, or just including the first few channels of the UHF-CV band.
Thank you.
At 4, whatever that is.
476, 425.
Yeah, 476 is the upper limit of them, so that the handband sits nicely in there. And being Motorola product, I could bet you my bottom dollar that they'll meet spec from the lowest channel.
I mean, radios these days are all designed for pretty big bandwidths.
Yes.
Commercial. Thank you.
I believe there's a few Motorola's that are compatible in Australia, is that right?
Not that I'm aware of. Hang on, maybe unless you mean like ATS 2500 handhelds and things like that. They, I don't think, do P25 on the amateur band, but I also don't think you can get hold of the software out there.
I thought I'd point that out. Be wary if you're going on eBay and think, oh, it's ultra cheap, it might be a reason.
But if you stick to the products that you see on display here today, I can guarantee you that they work. I can guarantee you that the software is available to amateurs at no cost. Sorry, there was
just a nitty-gritty question.
Yes.
How is the digital data modulated onto the carrier? Is it like audio tones and FM or what?
Sort of, but it's more like a QPSA, quadrature thing, modulation. We covered exactly what it was, but it's a little bit more complex than AFSK tones.
Yeah. That little tape, seems a little bit more, less bulky. Is there any downside?
The tape?
Yeah.
No, that's my LIN code.
Oh, is it?
And that's not P25 capable.
I thought I saw a tape that was...
in the
slide presentation.
Yes.
Is there any downside? the mobile. That's it. Yeah, that looks a bit, less bulky, I suppose.
I don't own a tape. I don't have any experience with them, but knowing the tape New Zealand manufacturing process and all of their stuff is pretty solid and pretty reliable, I don't think it would have made it to the market meet the spec and do it well. Certainly no government departments would buy them if they weren't as good as the Motorola.
If you've got Horsley Park programmed in, ZL2KG is standing by.
Okay. I just want to go on to explain that the Alinco was only out here today so that I can show people here what P25 sounds like on a conventional radio. And Horsley Park. Well, that's linked to Governor Phillip Tower.
Not at the moment.
Oh, okay.
Having issues. Old school P24 over IP becomes a little bit tricky.
Okay.
Getting there.
No, sorry, I haven't got Horsley Park.
That's radio. I've got out here. So I've got to do this one.
Okay. The K2KXN in front of about 40 people at Dural listening Horsley Park.
I think we'd struggle to get into it, Justin, wouldn't we?
It's a bit of Faraday cage, this one.
It's an ask.
You're in a Faraday cage.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
You're
I don't think we can do that. All right, maybe time for 2 more questions, and then I'll get out of your face and we'll get on to DMR. Yes.
I will, if I may. If this is a protocol that's still in use by services out there, civil defence services, can you listen into them or at different frequencies if they're still on band, or are they encrypted, or how do you avoid interfering with those guys?
Oh, you won't interfere with them if you're in the ham band. And yes, if they're non-encrypted, P25 protocol, you could program their channels out to receive only to be legal, and listen to them.
Is there, with sending your identifier, is there anything as with like D-Star, you have to register on gateways before it's functional, or is it just not superfluous, but is it just something that's a compulsory identifier? It doesn't serve any...
Well, it's compulsory to keep the ACMA happy, and also it's handy because I've got Compton's ID sort of embedded in my memory. He only has to key up the repeater that I'm listening to and not say a word, and I think, oh, okay, I can answer Compton because...
Or not.
By way of demo, I've got the New South Wales GRN up in this handset, which is the same handset I can run on the amateur bands.
That's the ferries.
And you'll get the you get the ferries, you get the Opera House cleaners, the New South Wales ambulance service. It just depends on what you want, because I haven't got talk groups enabled on it. It's just running on the wildcard. But yeah, you can set it up and you can listen as receive only configurations to those.
But an encrypted service, you just hear squeal.
Yep. Well, I've never tried it, but yeah, it won't work.
Yeah. You do. You just hear packets of gobbledygook.
But apparently there's a New South Wales police encryption. They only really need it in Newcastle, Sydney and Wollongong. They've got it implemented in country areas, but most of it's still analogue and clear.
And they use a rolling code where they'll over-the-air update an public key, private key, or something like that.
Couldn't possibly comment.
So it doesn't fall into the hands of your local drug dealer?
Couldn't possibly comment.
There's most probably a couple of people in the room that know the answer to that. We most probably...
We won't be recording.
There's a camera over there which is recording audio
and video.
We won't say too much more.
Just a silly question.
No question, silly.
Okay, what's DMR ID? You talk about client ID.
Yes.
That's fine.
Yes.
But what's DMR ID?
Okay.
And how do you get it?
You go to a website, and that's the subject of the next presentation, so I shouldn't really steal too much thunder from there. not a silly question, but just to give it an answer. It's a worldwide ID where the first digits identify you as Australia, the next digit by the state, and then there's 3 digits which are allocated to you. I think that's right. Anyway, listen to the next
Keep awake on the next one, okay.
presentation. That will most probably be explained because that's the subject material of the next presentation. Any more for any more?
He said 1 digit.
Okay, Nick, thank you very much. To our junior speaker, John Okay, guys, the mind can only absorb what the backside will stand. So we're going to have a short break for about 13.5 minutes so you can stretch your legs and use the sandbox, okay? Before we get on to DMR. When I want you back, you'll hear two of those. That means come back and assemble here, okay? Go!
It's running Debian 6, you know.
If you get a real